Empire.
Welcome to Inside the Cap. I'm your host, Joel Corey. You can find me on Twitter at Corey Joel. That is CORRYJOEL. And also read my regular CBSSports.com column, Agents Take on NFL salary cap and contract matters. This week we're going to take a look at the financial implications of the Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl selections were revealed on Wednesday night. A couple of them have been teased out prior to that, Monday and Tuesday, but the full squads were announced on Wednesday. Just personally, I'm not a fan of the voting process. The fans get 1/3 of the vote. Coaches and players get 2/3 of the votes. I don't like fans voting for any All-Star games or any honors, but if you take the position that the game is for the fans and let them see the players they want to play, then that's the rationale. That's why you had Michael Jordan as an all-star starter in 2002 when his performance didn't warrant it. And in Kobe Bryant's last season, 2015-16 season, was nowhere close to being an all-star, but was a leading vote getter. But that being said, there are several players that have performance bonuses in their contracts for Pro Bowl that were achieved, and we're going to go through those. Most notably, Xavier Howard had the biggest one. He earned a $1 million bonus for making the Pro Bowl. And then for anyone who makes the Pro Bowl, for a bonus to be paid out, it has to be on the original ballot. So if you are someone like Hassan Reddick, who had a $1 million Pro Bowl bonus, you get to play in the game as an alternate. The alternate status does not qualify you for the achieving or collecting the bonus. And if you don't play in the game, you still get to collect if you're medically excused. And a lot of these guys will end up being medically excused. Generally, that's why you have alternates, and why you see sometimes we'll see them go to the 5th, 6th quarterback. And one year Mitch Trubisky got in, who because the number of quarterbacks dropping out. Plus, the game is played before the Super Bowl, so the Super Bowl participants, players from those teams, are not going to be playing in the Pro Bowl. But Howard earns a $1 million Pro Bowl bonus, the biggest this year. This was a part of a reworking of his contract this year, early part of training camp. He wanted his contract renegotiated because he thought the cornerback market conditions had changed since he signed a couple of years ago to become the highest paid cornerback at slightly over $15 million per year. Now you got a $20 million per year cornerback setting the market in Jalen Ramsey. Dolphins had no interest in doing that because he has 4 years left on his contract. But they added in another $2.5 million in playtime incentives as well, and gave him assurances that they would rework his contract early in 2022, depending upon his health and performance. Over the past 2 years, he's had second most interceptions in the NFL, 15. He had a league leading 10 last year, has 5 now. So his expectations are probably going to be for them to rip up the contract. It doesn't work that way. Not just going to rip it up and start anew. The best or the most analogous situation is going to be Deandre Hopkins. He had 3 years left on his contract when he was traded from the Texans to the Arizona Cardinals, and they ended up giving him a 2-year extension. They didn't rip it up. Some of the money was reallocated over the 3 years, and then there's a 2-year extension, making him the highest paid receiver in football. So there is a template for Howard and the Dolphins to work off of to do an extension with 3 years left on a deal. Jason Kelce earns a $500,000 roster bonus for making the Pro Bowl. Escalation. He's got a $100 2022 March roster bonus, and it can escalate by up to $3 million. $500,000 of the escalation is tied to the Pro Bowl. It's the first day of the league year roster bonus. The interesting thing is, so that'll be March 16th. The interesting thing is most salary escalations, base salary, or roster bonuses are non-guaranteed. This roster bonus becomes guaranteed whatever he earns. He can earn it based on his play time and also whether Philadelphia gets to the playoffs and how far they advance. But the only other one I can recall like this was Ryan Fitzpatrick's for the second year of the Dolphins contract. Anything he earned for his base salary escalator became guaranteed, so that's unusual in and of itself. We have Kenny Moore, the Colts cornerback, $250,000 base salary escalation for his 2022 salary. Also, his 2023 salary goes up $100,000 as well. I call this like a pyramiding escalator where what you do in one year ends up impacting the other years or other year. We had Kenny Clark as well, taking his base salary from $8 million to $8.25 million, the Packers interior defensive lineman for his Pro Bowl selection. The two special teamers, J.T. Gray from the Saints and Matthew Slater for the Patriots, who is seemingly always a special team selection from the AFC, $100,000 incentive for making the Pro Bowl. Now, Pro Bowl also has other significance contractually as well. The proven performance escalator for non-first round picks changed a lot in the 2020 CBA. It used to just be one escalator, which applied to third through seventh round picks based on playtime. There's now a level to the escalator which applies to second through seventh round picks based on whether you have any Pro Bowl selections. One Pro Bowl selection will make your fourth year salary, your total fourth year salary, equal to the second round restricted free agent tender for that year. Now, some people who had earned the escalator but didn't end up playing on it because it started applying to the 2018 draft class were Fred Warner, Darius Leonard, Nick Chubb. They all signed extensions, but their base salary for this year 2021 had escalated to $3.384 million. Now, how you figure out the restricted free agent tender is for the 2022 league year, it will be the increase of the salary cap, the percentage increase of the salary cap applied to what the second round tender was last year, plus $125,000. So we know the cap is supposed to be set at $208.2 million this year. That's a 14.08% increase from what it currently is at $182.5 million. You apply that plus $125,000. That means the salary is going to be $3.986 million for guys drafted in the second round in 2019. And there are three players that applies to. Deebo Samuel, the 49ers second round pick wide receiver. Max Crosby, fourth round pick from the Raiders. And Matt Gay, the kicker for the Rams, for the Los Angeles Rams. Their salary in 2022 will be $3.986 million. 49ers are very proactive, so I wouldn't be surprised if they don't work out a contract extension before the start of training camp, or at the very least during the preseason for Deebo Samuel. Right now, including last night's game, he's got 1,247 receiving yards on 70 receptions. Also has run the ball 44 times for 301 yards. He started playing more in the backfield because of injuries to the 49ers running backs. But prior to that, through Week 10, he was second in the NFL in receiving yards. So there are only a handful of receivers who are making over $20 million per year. That's going to change because of Devontae Adams. If he signs a long-term deal, at least there'll be one more. It's Deandre Hopkins, Julio Jones, Keenan Allen, and Amari Cooper. I suspect Debo's going to want to be in that neighborhood. Okay, Max Crosby. Sacks have been few and far between for Crosby this year, but his quarterback pressures he's been among the league leaders in quarterback pressures for most of the year. So anyone who can put consistent pressure on a quarterback typically gets paid. So he's one of the bright spots for the Raiders, who've had a very tough season, a lot of turmoil. But I'm anticipating that Crosby is going to be looking to get in that $20 million per year neighborhood for pass rushers, which is the going rate for highly productive ones. I believe he has 5 sacks this year. Has been stuck on 5 sacks for a long time. That will be held against him in negotiations, but typically if you can get a lot of pressure on quarterbacks, ultimately that will translate into sacks. So that'll be one to keep your eye on as well. And then Matt Gay's interesting from the standpoint that he was released by the Buccaneers right before the start of the 2020 regular season for Ryan Suckup. Was sitting on the Colts practice squad when he was plucked off of that and became the Rams kicker. So this is a guy that this year is leading the NFL in field goal percentage. He is converting 96.6% of his field goals. He's only missed one point after touchdown, one extra point attempt. So it's going to be very interesting to see where he gets paid, given he's one of the most productive kickers. Highest paid kicker there's only one $5 million per year kicker. That's Justin Tucker. Right now, the going rate for a very good kicker is the $3.5 to $4 million range. So we'll see if the Rams decide to extend him in that range as well. Getting back to Max Crosby, he's got 94 total quarterback pressures, but 5 sacks. So that's what he can hang his hat on, and we'll see how that one goes. It also is going to apply to players in 2023 as well. We don't know what the fourth year salary is going to be for 2020 draft picks, but Jonathan Taylor, Trayvon Diggs, Devin Duvernay were all named to the Pro Bowl, so their 2023 salary is going to be whatever the second round tender is next year. Now we got another implication for the Pro Bowl. Fifth year options and how they're calculated for first round picks changed in the new CBA. It used to be based strictly on your draft position. Picks 1 through 10, your fifth year option was the transition tag heading into your fourth year at your position. If you were picked after the top 10, picks 11 through 32, it was the third through 25th highest paid players at position, as calculated the way franchise and transition tags are calculated. The options were just guaranteed for injury upon exercise and fully guaranteed heading into the fifth year on the first day of that league year. Now, when you exercise it, it's fully guaranteed. That was something that started with the 2018 draft class. So there have been implications for the Pro Bowl selections as well. First, relating to the 2019 first-round picks, their fifth-year options have to be picked up from the beginning at the end of the regular season, January 10th. Must be exercised by May 2nd. 3 guys earned the Pro Bowl this year from the 2019 first round. Kyler Murray, that was the second Pro Bowl, the Cardinals quarterback. Now, how it works is if you have 2 Pro Bowl selections, then your fifth-year option will equal the franchise tag heading into your fourth year. So Kyler Murray's fifth-year option in 2023 is the 2022 franchise tag, which projects to $29.703 million. Nick Bosa has come back with flying colors from tearing his ACL last year. He's got 15 sacks in 15 games. He made the Pro Bowl as a rookie, was the NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year, his rookie year in 2019. So since this is his second Pro Bowl, then his fifth-year option is going to equal the defensive end franchise tag, and that's going to be $17.859 million. I don't know if Kyler Murray gets a deal done before the start of the 22 regular season, but I'd be shocked if Nick Bosa does not, because the San Francisco 49ers are one of the most proactive teams in terms of their core players, and I anticipate Nick Bosa being the first $30 million per year defensive player. Right now, the highest paid defensive player and also non-quarterback is Steelers edge rusher T.J. Watt, who signed a 4-year extension for a little over $112 million right before the start of the regular season, with $80 million fully guaranteed. Deal average is just a shade over $28 million per year. So that's the current benchmark. Panthers defensive end Brian Burns was selected to his first Pro Bowl, so his fifth-year option in 2023 is going to equal the 2022 transition tag for defensive ends, and that projects to $16.012 million. He benefits from the change in the calculations. He was a 16th pick in the round, so had it stayed the old way, then his option would be a lot less. The 3rd through 25th highest paid defensive ends, that salary projects to $11.5 million. So we're talking a $4.5 million swing, a little more than a $4.5 million swing in the option for Brian Burns in his favor. There are some first-round picks in the 2020 draft who were impacted as well. This will be going towards their fifth-year option 2024, which won't be exercised until after the 2022 regular season ends. So they have one more year to add to whether it's a franchise tag or transition tag. Justin Herbert, he's making his first Pro Bowl this year. So that means his 2024 option is going to be the 2023 quarterback transition tag number. Tristan Wirfs, the right tackle for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, his 2024 fifth-year option will be the 2023 offensive line transition tag. Justin Jefferson made the Pro Bowl last year. That's now 2 for him. So his option in 2024 will be the 2023 wide receiver franchise tag. This guy, by the end of the season, is going to be the most productive receiver in NFL history through his first 2 seasons. Right now, he's got 177 catches for 2,735 yards. That's 5th all-time. Receptions first 2 years. The record is by Michael Thomas, 196 catches. He should get the yardage record this week in the Vikings' next game. He's 20 yards off Odell Beckham's pace. And he also had 4 guys who are rookies this year, where their fifth-year option in 2025 is now the transition tag at their respective positions. That's tight end Kyle Pitts of the Atlanta Falcons, Jamar Chase, the wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals, Rashawn Slater, offensive tackle for the Los Angeles Chargers, and Micah Parsons, linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys. Parsons is probably going to be Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's gotten talk about potentially being the Defensive Player of the Year. Here's where Parsons gets interesting. They use him kind of all over. He's a off-ball linebacker by trade, but he's one hell of a pass rusher as well. He's got 12 sacks this year, which is 7th in the NFL. I want to be known as a pass rusher as opposed to an off-ball linebacker. So, and typically the defensive end franchise tag is bigger than the linebacker franchise tag. That won't be the case in 2022, but in almost every year I can recall that has been the case. But his fifth-year option will be determined by where he takes the most snaps in 2024. So we'll see if he's playing more snaps with his hand in the dirt, rushing the passer, versus in a two-point stance. And you may have a grievance over that. Jadeveon Clowney had a grievance over his franchise tag position because he wanted to be classified as defensive end as opposed to a linebacker. And he and the Texans had a settlement where they basically gave him the hybrid, the average of the two. So we'll see what happens with Michael Parsons along those lines as well.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football is back, and the best bet you can make is downloading the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It doesn't matter if you're new to gambling or an old pro, FanDuel has something for everyone. And as an official sports betting partner of the NFL, you know your bets are safe. There's also never been a better time to use FanDuel, because right now, you'll get up to $1,000 back if your first bet doesn't win. You can even turn a small wager into a big payday with a same-game parlay bet. Just sign up with the promo code Spotify to place your first bet risk-free on FanDuel Sportsbook. Download FanDuel today. 21 plus and present in New Jersey. First online real money wager only. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Being selected to the Pro Bowl also can have consequences in an actual negotiation, not just where you earn a bonus or you have salary escalated by the CBA. Agents will use the Pro Bowl to bolster a case for a player, for a client when they're negotiating for him, whereas a team will try to minimize it by saying it's a popularity contest. If the team brings it up and tries to use it against the player for a player that has made the Pro Bowl, he'll say, it's just a popularity contest. So people use it kind of at their disposal. But there are some Pro Bowlers who are in contract years, and some of them will have some interesting situations. Let's take a look at some of those as well. First, going to running back. James Conner made the Pro Bowl from the Arizona Cardinals. He's got 700 rushing yards. Didn't become a factor in the passing game until Chase Edmonds got hurt. But he's third in the NFL, 16 touchdowns, 14 rushing touchdowns. Signed a one-year deal for $1.75 million to go to Arizona. Edmonds is also unrestricted at the end of the year, so I don't think they'll be able to have both back. They'll pay probably one or the other. The benchmark I'm looking at is last year Arizona didn't want to pay Kenyon Drake. They let him go to the Raiders to be the second running back, complimentary back to Josh Jacobs. He signed for $11 million over 2 years. Deal maxes at $14.5 million through incentives. So if I'm Connor, I'm kind of looking at, well, if I can get to there as a minimum, great. At wide receiver, we've got Davante Adams. Packers have to make a decision about whether to franchise him or not. It'd be a no-brainer if they didn't have a ton of cap commitments for next year. And maybe it's tied to Aaron Rodgers and what his situation ultimately is. The Packers, in terms of their cap situation, is probably the second worst in the NFL, behind the Saints. They're projected to be about $40 million over the cap. You have to shed that type of payroll before you talk about putting a $20.12 million franchise tag on Davante Adams. They couldn't get anything done in a negotiation during the preseason and offseason. He wanted to be the highest paid receiver in football, which in new money is Deandre Hopkins at $27.25 million per year. The Packers are trying to discount that deal, dismiss it, because he had 3 years left on his contract. I guarantee you, if DeAndre Hopkins' new money came in at $18 million per year, they'd be using that against him. So you can't have it both ways. Either the deal counts and you look at it at new money, which is what the negotiation was over, or not. You can't cherry pick deals. They're in the marketplace or they're not. There are two guys who are heading into contract years at wide receiver that'll be interesting to watch. Actually, one. Tyreek Hill will be in a contract year in 2022. It'll be the last year of his 3-year, $54 million extension that he signed a couple of years ago when he was under the cloud of child abuse allegations. He'll definitely want a raise, and Stephon Diggs will have 2 years left on his contract. He wasn't happy with his contract when he got there. When he had 4 years, they shifted some money upwards to placate him and modified his incentives, so we'll see if he gets something done with 2 years left, or he has to continue to wait. Moving to the offensive line, first one we got is Orlando Brown, the left tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. He makes the Pro Bowl as a left tackle after being a right tackle with the Baltimore Ravens. The reason he's no longer with the Ravens is because he wanted to be a long-term left tackle, and in hindsight, given the injuries that they've had at multiple positions, they could have used him to stay at left tackle. They only would have gotten a compensatory third-round pick in 2023 for him leaving in free agency. But he's got a lot of leverage with the Chiefs. Now he's a Pro Bowler at left tackle. Chiefs gave up their 2021 first-round pick, 2021 third-round pick, 2021 fourth-round pick, and a 2022 fifth-round pick for Brown, a 2021 second-round pick, and a 2022 sixth-round pick. So anytime you don't get a deal done with a player in a contract year in a trade, you hand that guy the hammer. So the highest paid offensive lineman is right now Orlando Brown. So I don't think I'm not Orlando Brown, I should say. That's who I'm talking about. Trent Williams at $23.01 million per year. David Bakhtiari is at $23 million. And Laramie Tunsil is at $22 million. You have right tackles where the top of that market is 19. So I'd be shocked if you get Orlando Brown for less than $20 million per year. Brandon Scherf for the Washington football team, despite missing a couple games because of injury, makes the Pro Bowl again. He won't be franchised. He's franchised the past 2 years. He's playing under an $18.036 million franchise tag. By CBA rule, his third tag will be 144% of his second tag, or the highest franchise tag number at any position, which is quarterback. That's going to be $29.073 million. He's hitting the open market if they can't work out a long-term deal with him. What we've seen in recent years is if you have a high-caliber guard hit the open market, he becomes highest paid player at the position. That happened this year with Joe Thuney, signs for $16 million per year. For him to stay in Washington, there's no deal to be made that isn't more than $16.5 million per year. He's gone year to year the past 2 years and made just over $16.5 million per year. So why would he sign for less than that to stay put? So he's going to be looking, I expect him to be the highest paid offensive guard when his deal's done. And that'll be a short-lived reign as the highest paid guy at the position, because Quentin Nelson ultimately will be the highest paid guard. He's heading into his fifth-year option in 2022 for $13.754 million. And if I'm him, I'm trying to be the highest paid offensive lineman on the team, which is currently Brandon Smith, the right tackle, is $17.5 million per year, $17.5 million per year. So I'm looking to top that if I'm him. We have Ryan Jensen from Tampa Bay, who is in a contract year. We saw that everyone with Tampa to keep the band together this year was more concerned about that than necessarily maximizing or getting every last dollar. When Jensen got to Tampa as a free agent in 2018, he became the highest paid center at $10.5 million per year. He's going to want a raise because he's like, hey, I'm not declining. I shouldn't take less than what I signed for 4 years ago. Top of the market is Frank Ragnow from the Detroit Lions at $13.5 million per year. It was Corey Linsley who left the Green Bay Packers for the Chargers in free agency at $12.5 million per year. So that's another one to keep an eye on. There's one or two fullbacks on the Pro Bowl teams. Patrick Ricard is a Pro Bowl. The two highest paid fullbacks in the league are the Pro Bowl fullbacks. Kyle Juszczyk from the San Francisco 49ers is the NFC fullback. Ricard signed an extension a couple years ago, averaging $3.65 million per year. And that was when he was a two-way player as well. So I don't know how much the Ravens are thinking that money is allocated for him also being an interior defensive lineman. Now he's a full-time fullback. Juszczyk is making $5.4 million per year. You've got Derek Watt at $3.125 million per year. And really, he's a special teams player because he barely plays on offense. And C.J. Ham's at $3 million. And those are the fullbacks that really get paid a ton of money. Ricard plays more than the other fullback besides Juszczyk. He's been on the field for just over 50% of the Ravens' offensive snaps this year. So he'll probably not want to take a pay cut. But I'm interested to see how he does, because I suspect you don't get paid really as a fullback to switch teams. Derek Watt did to go from the Chargers to the Steelers, but I call him the highest paid special teams player in the league. I think he's getting paid more for special teams play than being a fullback. C.J. Ham re-signed with the Vikings. Usek's contract expired, went into free agency, went back to the 49ers. So we'll see if Ricard stays put, or I'd be really curious to see what he would get from another team. There's one edge rusher, Chandler Jones. He's in the Pro Bowl as an outside linebacker, but he's a 4-3 defensive end. That's what he was in New England. He's in the last year of a 5-year, $82.5 million contract that he signed as a franchise player with the Cardinals. He's had a bounce-back year last year. Ended up missing the final 11 games with torn bicep. Got to start the season like gangbusters. Was NFC Defensive Player of the Week for what he did against the Titans in Week 1. 5 sacks, 4 tackles for losses, 2 forced fumbles. He's only had 4.5 more sacks for the rest of the year. And Marcus Golden leads the team in sacks of 11. Now, there was a report early at the beginning of the season that he turned down a 1-year offer for $14 million with another $1.5 million in incentives for 15 sacks. Typically, pass rushers who hit the market at 31, 32, 33 don't fare well in free agency, and he'll be 32 in February. You won't franchise him because that's $25 million as his franchise tag number. So I'm curious to see if he leaves, where that deal ends up. He's going to think, hey, I'm still the same guy I was when I signed 5 years ago. Team's going to look at, we're not paying you for what you did. We're paying you for what we expect you to do. And history has shown that you get diminishing returns with pass rushers as they start to advance in age. That'll be one that'll be curious to watch. We got a couple guys in the secondary. Quadre Diggs is an interesting one for me because Seattle needs to decide how much money they're going to allocate to the safety position. They don't pay corners. They made Jamal Adams the highest paid safety in the league at $17.5 million per year. Diggs is in a second straight Pro Bowl this year. He's tied with Justin Simmons for the most interceptions from a safety since the start of the 2020 regular season. He's going to be thinking, hey, I should get Justin Simmons money. And Simmons signed for $62 million over 4 years on his deal. That's $15.5 million per year. So he's going to be thinking that. A team may be thinking, well, Micah Hyde money, which is $9.625 million per year, maybe. And then you had John Johnson in free agency who signed for $11.25 million per year to go from the Rams to the Browns. We've got Darwin James made a second Pro Bowl, finally healthy. Was great as a rookie, 2 injury-plagued years. Missed all of last year for meniscus surgery. Was limited to like 5 games in his second season. He's scheduled to play in a $9.05 million fifth-year option in 2022. If I'm James, I'm like, hey, I'm healthy. I'm back. When I play, I'm the best safety in football. I'm your Swiss Army knife, jack of all trades. You can put me basically anywhere. I can do multiple things. I'm pointing to that Jamal Adams deal. Tyrann Mathieu can't be franchised by the Chiefs because it's too cost prohibitive. Plus, that's probably going to go to Orlando Brown anyway. You only franchise one player. His number would be $23.63 million because of the way the 120% of prior year salary provisions work for franchise tags. You can't hold his age against him. He's 29 because of what the Vikings did of Harrison Smith. They made a 32-year-old Harrison Smith the second highest paid safety in the league at $16 million per year. When he went to Kansas City in free agency, he signed for $14 million per year. That tied him for the highest paid safety in the league at the time. If he can't get to Jamal Adams, he's at least going to want to get above Harrison Smith, and that's assuming he's looking to maximize dollars. And I think if he was willing to give Kansas City a hometown discount, this deal probably would have been done already. But it wasn't. Now, turning to the cornerback position, J.C. Jackson may be having the best contract year of anybody. He was named AFC Defensive Player of the Month in November. He's got 7 interceptions this year. He's got 21 over the since the start of 2019 regular season. That's the most in the NFL. He's leading the NFL with 20 passes defensed. The Patriots are going to have a tight cap situation, particularly if they franchise him, and that number is projected to $17.287 million. But you let a man-to-man corner hit the open market, he should do very well. He's got to be looking, hey, Marshawn Lattimore signed for $19.4 million per year for the Saints to right at the start of the regular season. He's proven that he can be a number one corner. That was the biggest concern of him. Stephon Gilmore had been the number one, the defensive player of the year 2 years ago. He was out at the beginning of the year for quad injury before he was traded to the Panthers, and look how J.C. Jackson's performed. Now, if you franchise him, then you're putting yourself basically at $19 million per year is what the agent's going to look for at a minimum, because he's going to go, you franchise me once, 20% raise in the second franchise tag, and I'm basically at $38 million over two. So if New England wants to pay him, and they paid a bunch of outsiders last year in free agency, and players look at that. You pay the outsiders, not the guys that you who've done stuff for you for years. I used to hear that all the time as an agent when free agents would get paid more than the guys who've been there that were my clients. So I'm sure that dynamic will come up. But can they really afford to let him go when you let Gilmore go in a trade? Then there's also Denzel Ward, named to his second Pro Bowl. He went as a rookie in 2018. His fifth-year option in 2022 will be $13.294 million. He's got the same agent, Tory Dandy, as Marshawn Lattimore, so you know he's looking at that as a floor, and probably wants to be paid more than Jalen Ramsey, who was highest-paid corner at $20 million per year. And last but not least, the Cowboys punter, I should say, Brian Anger. Brian Anger is leading the NFL in net punting at 43.9 yards per punt. He is playing on his league minimum $1.075 million salary. And it's a one-year deal, which is called a veteran salary benefit contract. And when you sign one of these types of contracts, then the team gets a break on the cap hit. The cap hit is $850,000, which is the league minimum for a player of 2 credited seasons. He was making $2.75 million per year before the Texans cut him in March. The average salary for veteran punters, according to, and that's punters on non-rookie contracts, according to NFLPA data, is just over $2 million. And the most recent data point for punters in the marketplace is by A.J. Cole, the AFC punter from the Raiders, who 2 weeks ago signed an 4-year extension for $3 million per year. So if Dallas wants Brian Anger back, it's not going to be another veteran salary benefit contract, that's for sure. They're probably going to have to pay him the going rate for a punter. That's going to wrap up this week's Inside the Cap. Thank you guys for listening. Don't forget, you can find me on Twitter at Corey Joel. That is CORRYJOEL. And also read my CBSSports.com column. Agents Take. Everyone have a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you back here next time. Goodbye.